Welcome to our live event on diabetes reversal. This is going to be one of the rare lives where I kind of pull back the curtain and show you how I coach people, how what I teach people when they're going through a 12-week program with me for diabetes reversal. So on this channel, we usually talk about different topics, most of them being diabetes related. But just as a, I guess, introduction, just in case you're new to our channel or
kind
are
of
watching us.
pull back the
Oops.
curtain, show you how I coach people, how what I teach.
Well, that was weird. I had my phone on the live, and I could see now there's a little delay when you're watching me. That's pretty cool. Not that I didn't know that, but so if you've many of you guys are probably tuning in, have tuned in before and you know the story, but I'll give you a brief introduction of why we care so much about diabetes. But tonight we're going to go into really what to do, one of the most important things to measure and how to measure it when you're on the journey to reversing diabetes. Or if you're a type 1 diabetic, your goal would be then to lower your need of insulin, decrease your dose of insulin. But yeah, if before I go into the details, please don't be shy. If you're watching for the first time, we want to know where you're watching from, who you are. If you're a returning visitor, definitely let us know in the chat, and that you're here, signed in. All right, so yeah, today's gonna be fun. It's not gonna be very long. I try to keep our lives short, 20 minutes average. What I hope to do is get information from you on what you're eating. If you're curious on, okay, Lewis, is this good for diabetes? Is this bad for diabetes? This is a good live to pay attention to. I hope that you're watching live. If you're watching the recording, of course, you could still benefit from it. But this live is really special because now I'm going to allow you to let me know. Talk to me. What is it you're eating, and we can look at how it affects a very specific measure of your diabetes health, and to tell you if you're on the track to reversing it. All right, Jaretta, thank you for watching as always from Tennessee, Nashville. Um, so I yeah, so as far as why we care about diabetes, very briefly. So about 2 years ago, my wife was a diabetic. She had diabetes for 8 years at that point. Tired of medicines, tired of seeing her blood sugars rise despite the fact that she was limiting carbs. She had to go into a very low carb diet, a keto diet, to get normalized blood sugar levels because nothing else worked. But unfortunately, her liver enzymes went up, cholesterol went up, and as we know, we're not going to go into very detail, but being very low carb with emphasis on animal protein and animal fat puts you at high risk of the number one cause of death in the world, heart attacks, right? So heart disease. So not a good idea if your goal is longevity, living long. Good for controlling blood sugars temporarily, but long term, as far as risk of mortality or premature death, it's not ideal. Good thing is it's not the only way to manage or even reverse your diabetes. So when we did the research with much prayer, we found that the ideal fat intake, okay, this is where you want to take notes, guys. This is where you want to be writing down things. The ideal fat intake is less than 15% of your total calories, or ideally at maxing at 15%. So you can go lower, but not much higher than 15%. If you look at guidelines like the American Diabetes Association, they give more of a guideline on saturated fat. So they'll say don't limit your saturated fat intake to 10%. But we believe it's, and from my experience for the last 2 years in coaching people, that it's also wise if you want to reverse insulin resistance. Okay, that's our goal here. You want to keep your total fat intake to less than 15%. So let's go ahead and challenge us tonight to see if that's what we're doing. Okay, I'm gonna ask you guys for food. We're gonna put in a food logging app and see what happens to our fat intake. So that's the plan. All right. All right, Deanna, thank you for watching from Nashville as well. All right, daughter-in-law. Oh, nice. Okay, family. Awesome. So glad you are watching, and you're gonna learn a lot tonight for sure. We have our lives every Monday at 7 p.m. So I hope that you could always be here to join us. Now, I have to go back and forth between tabs on my computer, so I may miss some of your comments and chats. Okay, but we can make this work. Okay, so first thing I want to do is share my screen. Okay, so this is a food logging app. I don't really care what you use, but if you want to be serious about reversing your diabetes, you need to be logging your food intake. Okay. You won't know what if you're on the path to reversal. You won't know where your fat intake is. People say, "Oh, I don't eat a lot of fat." Well, let's see. Track it. It's so important to track it. This app is called Cronometer. So we started using this about a month ago. Before that, we were using Lose It app. We have a tutorial on that, but Lose It, Cronometer, the MyFitnessPal, whatever you're using. Out of curiosity, what you guys are you guys tracking your food intake? Are you guys logging your meals into apps? Let me know in the chat. I'd also like to know, if what apps you're using. If you like the app, maybe I'll check it out too. All right. Okay, Antoinette, thank you for watching. Awesome, and Audrey. All right, our faithful viewers, I really, really appreciate you guys. So, let's do this together. Okay. We could do it together, or I could put in meals myself. So, this is the date, of course. That's 17th. You could switch the date on this app, so you're logging the right date. The only thing we're going to pay attention to, I know there's a whole lot of things here, but the only thing we're paying attention to is how this fat percentage goes up. So if you're looking at the screen here, and you're seeing the protein in green, carbs in light blue, baby blue, and red, and fat in red, right? And look over to the right, the furthest column has a percentage of protein, carbs, and fat for every meal. What I want you to be very obsessive with when you're tracking your fat intake, or logging all your food into, is your fat. Okay, I know we obsess about protein, we're scared of carbs, but I like to challenge you. If you, for the next 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, consistently keep your fat intake at 15%, maxing at 15%, you will see your blood sugar start to drop. For many of you, it'll happen in days. Some of you might take a few, towards the end of that 2 weeks, but be consistent with it. Okay. And you'll see results. So let's do this. All right. Um, all right. So let's start with the first meal of the day. So let me slow down here. Okay. I tend to move very fast. All right. So where you want to do is click on food, right? That's an obvious place to start, and you choose a food. So what do you guys want to eat? So let's think about what we want to eat for breakfast. Okay. What we're looking at here is just some foods that I favorited. You don't need to know how to do that, but um, let me think of a food or meal we like to eat. So Antoinette says old fashioned logging in paper food journal. I like that. Okay, that's awesome. So of our viewers, who would like to tell me what you ate for breakfast? Okay, we got eggs. Awesome. All right. So I figured that would be one of the things that's I'd say often used for diabetes, because it's zero carbs. But let's see if we adding eggs. Oh, I have to get here to the all section. So I was actually in custom. We want to go in all eggs, and are we okay? Let's see. Deanna, or how are you doing your eggs? Is it scrambled? Is it boiled? How are you doing your eggs? Okay, we're gonna do Ezekiel bread. And again, so guys, get how would you suggest you want to do eggs? I would guess you're probably going to want to emphasize health, so maybe you're doing boiled eggs. Let's just assume maybe boiled eggs. So let me see if I have boiled as an option here. Boiled, maybe I have to put it here. Boiled eggs here. Okay, so all right. Oh, Deanna, sorry. There's a delay. I'm seeing now that you said scrambled. So I know it's gonna be a little difficult because I'm asking you questions and there's a delay in me getting your answers to put them in the app. For time's sake, you guys go ahead while I'm putting foods and thinking of foods. Let me know what you ate today. Say, hey, this, and I'm gonna go in the chat and see what I can make as far as putting a meal together based on what you ate. So we did eggs. Let's say two large eggs. Okay. You want to be satisfied. We did 2 large eggs for breakfast. I'm gonna put it in the breakfast category. All right. So now we got 2 large eggs here. Okay. And Ezekiel bread. Someone said Ezekiel bread. So let's go ahead and put Ezekiel bread. Um, and we could choose any one of these really. I like Ezekiel bread. We use that a lot. And let's say we had 2 slices of Ezekiel bread. All right. All right. Talk to me, guys. What else you're doing? with cheese. All right, so we're gonna add cheese. Let's say shredded cheese, maybe. I know probably wouldn't do shredded cheese on boiled eggs, but we're gonna pretend we boiled them, right? We're not using oil too much. Shredded cheese. Okay. And what's nice is you could choose like a brand or a type, okay? Just to keep it simple, I'm just gonna choose the first one that pops up. All right, I hope that's fair, okay? Shredded cheese, and this is like I guess one serving size in Chipotle's shredded cheese brand. So a serving size of shredded cheese, okay? What else? Oh, someone Deanna said I was bad today. Okay, someone said handful of blueberries. Okay, let's do blueberries next. And I like this. It's okay, Deanna, because it's nice to see where you start. Whenever I coach people, I tell them not to change anything for a week at least. Just observe, understand yourself, understanding your food habits and how you eat and how it affects your overall fat intake. Is important. Okay, for diabetes health. So we're doing blueberries. Let's do a for breakfast. How about we're gonna be generous with our blueberries and do a whole cup? That's a lot, actually. Maybe a third cup. All right, let me do a lot of blueberries. But blueberries, a nice choice. All right. Anyone else want to talk to me what they ate for breakfast? They want to add to this meal of boiled eggs with cheese and blueberries. If you think of this meal as far as diabetes healthy, there's very low carbs. So you would think that it's great for diabetes. But we know, if you've been watching this channel long enough, when you look at the studies and um, how fat intake affects diabetes and specifically insulin resistance, that's what we need to transition our focus to, right? Not so much carbs, but the cause, fat, right? Okay, we're gonna add avocado. All right, we're gonna add avocado. All right, I think that's a pretty good meal. Avocado. Um, Let's see. They just I'm looking for like a raw. Okay, avocado raw, and let's say, and of course, serving size is always without the skin and seeded, without this fruit. So let's say we did a whole avocado. All right. Okay. So a whole avocado with Ezekiel bread, boiled eggs, chipotle. Actually, these are supposed to be in breakfast, so I'll just drag them out here. Okay, pretty good breakfast. Not many calories, 681 calories. Okay. Um, I'm gonna wait till the end, okay, to look at your fat intake because you may have one meal that's a little higher in fat, but then another meal that's lower in fat, and the end of the day might balance out. So let's just go through. Let's go to lunch. Okay. So Joretta says she wants to have okay, and I see black tea. Uh so as long as whenever you're talking about like herbs or supplements or teas, they don't really add significant calories. So unless you're adding something to it like cream, sugar, a milk, obviously, to the tea, you can actually it's a freebie, okay? So you don't need to include it. Awesome. Oh, Deanna's being real though. She said she put heavy whipping cream. No, no, we don't want to do that. But but that's something if you're putting into your coffee in the morning, you want to include it in the app so you can see how it affects your overall macronutrient profile. Okay. But let's take on another suggestion. So we got a toasted cheese sandwich with lettuce. Okay, so let's do that for lunch. Okay, let's do that for lunch. And I guess we're doing two slices. Let's do Ezekiel bread again. We're gonna choose a healthier bread, like Ezekiel, 2 slices for lunch, not 12, two. And if I'm going too fast, guys, tell me to slow down. Let's do cheese. Um, let's change the cheese up a little bit. Let's do cheddar cheese. I want to have slices options. Yeah, slice. Uh, one slice. All right, just not much. Okay. Of cheese. All right. So we had toasted cheese with lettuce, tomato. All right. One slice of provolone cheese. I used. Sorry, I didn't. I should have read that. You would use provolone cheese. And hummus. So let's put the tomato And as I'm typing, guys, go ahead and throw what you ate today in the chat, and I'll grab that to put it in the app. Okay. So throw in comments in the chat. Let's see, tomato red raw for lunch. We do one medium slice. Okay. And then I think I saw hummus. Hummus is nice. Hummus is nice. All right, hummus. And let's just go with the gram serving size. Okay, so we got boiled eggs with some avocado, cheese, blueberries, and two slices of Ezekiel bread. Then we got Ezekiel bread for lunch too, and some cheddar cheese, tomato, and hummus. All right, that was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All right. All right. So, okay. So I got Jimmy saying salami on rye with olive oil based mayo. Let's put that into a dinner meal. Okay. So let's use salami. Let's say we had some salami. Um, or actually, let me think. If I, yeah, let's put that into dinner. Okay. So let's say for dinner tonight, we added some salami and let's see, let's just choose the first one that comes up and say one slice. Just be conservative. What else are we eating for dinner? All right, so that's dinner. I think, yeah, I put in dinner. What else are we eating on that? Olive oil. Okay, let's say let's see, I don't know, let's throw some veggies in there, right? I mean, we know veggies are good for us, all right? So let's throw some I don't know, broccoli, okay? And cook from fresh, or let's say raw. Okay, we use 1 cup of whole broccoli, but you also kind of use some oil. Let's say oil. Let's do extra virgin olive oil, and typical serving size, like, is a tablespoon. So we'll leave that. Okay. I want you to notice something about this extra virgin olive oil, and it should be obvious. Olive oil is pure fat. No protein, no carbs, is pure fat. So if you logically are trying to eat a low fat diet, you could see, one of the first things, the easiest thing to start getting rid of is something that's purely fat. It's just oil. And you can actually cook a lot of things without oil, just simply using water or broth just to steam, or doing your stir fry and things like that. So that's one thing we recommend. Any other foods you want to include for dinner? I mean, that's a really humble dinner. Some broccoli, salami, and cooked in a tablespoon of oil. Um, let's throw in a grain in there. Maybe you decided to do brown rice. Okay, let's do brown rice. Brown rice uncooked. We just did a cup. Let's see. Well, this is serving size, so let's say a quarter of the cup is what you ate, right? And okay, so this is a whole day of meal. Pretty typical. So a pretty low calorie meal too. 1,279 calories, right? Consumed. We're going to ignore the expenditure part and remaining part because that's based on set targets that set up by the app. You can adjust those, but we're really only concerned with the energy summary in calories. Okay, so let's see how we did with fat intake. The goal is 15% of total calories. All right, of the all calories consumed for the day. Or another goal could be 30 grams. If you want to calculate it by grams, usually 30 grams of fat equates to about 10 to 15% total. Where almost 50% of our food is at fat, is fat. Right. Is that surprising to anybody? So I don't know if you're seeing this. So if you look at fat in red and you scroll over to the right, boom, boom, of all the calories consumed, fat is the highest at 47% of your total calories. That shouldn't be surprising. I think, I mean, looking at what we ate, right? We could also probably even look at the culprits, like what are the offenders? What are the things that are highest? What I like about this app that maybe, it's actually a feature of most apps, you could see which foods are the problem foods. So if I click on the red line there that says fat, it'll tell you which ones have the highest amount of fat for the amount of food you eat. The number one is that whole avocado we decided to eat. um, so, and then that should be something very informative because Avocados are a good food. I encourage eating avocados, absolutely, but you just can't eat as much if you're seeking to reverse diabetes because you want to keep your body in a low fat environment. Let me pause here and to kind of explain why this really works. Okay, on a biochemistry level, see, insulin works, and you probably heard this explanation already, but insulin works like a key. It unlocks cells doors, right? So whenever a food comes in, right, there's it has to get past the cell wall, right? But insulin comes with a key to unlock the door. Boom, carbs, glucose, glucose has been broken down from a carb source, goes right into the cell, right? But the problem is when you have diabetes or insulin resistance, there's fat inside your tissues, right? Inside the cells. And the fat at the surface of the cell forms like a wall. You could say it's gum inside the lock. So insulin can't open the door. It's stuck. This is why we know that the root cause of type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance. What's resisting the insulin is the gum or the fat inside the tissue. So when you go on a low fat diet, right, the fat gets burned away, the gum is gone from the lock. Insulin now can slide open the key, right? The lock and open the door for sugars to go into the cell. So the problem really is not carbs, right? We're trying to lower carbs, right? And that works because there's less carbs showing up at the door, but doesn't it make more sense just to make the door accessible, to remove the fat that's in the lock, right? By eating a low fat environment, right? Avoiding high fat foods. The foods highest in fat are animal foods, minimizing the consumption of high plant foods. So instead of eating a whole avocado, maybe you're eating a quarter of it, right? The fat now gets sucked out through the tissues. The tissue, and this happens very quickly. The fat that we're wearing can get sucked out when we're eating, when we're not feeding it. I hope that makes sense. And then insulin is no longer resisted. Your body's sensitive to insulin again. And now when you eat carbs, they'll go right into the cell. And like our clients who are eating carb-rich diet with the best blood sugars ever without medication or with minimal medication, to me, that's a goal every diabetic should have. All right, so all right, we got a recommendation from Sonia, Miss Thomas. Thank you for we're gonna change things up with that breakfast right there. Okay, let's change things up with that breakfast right there. So all right, we already know okay, let me go back. So we all know what some foods we could change here. All right, boiled eggs, extra virgin olive oil, and avocados, and cheese. Those are kind of following. Let's do some changes. Let's do some switcheroo. All right. So I don't know if this so far, Deanna says, wow, yeah. I mean, this is surprising for a lot of people. We don't realize how much fat we're eating. And there's a reason why, uh, we see diabetes so rampant today. They say in time it'll be as high as 1 in 3 people. Actually, 1 in 3 people have diabetes, either pre-diabetes or full. That's crazy. 1 in 3 people in America have a stage or level of diabetes. You wonder why? It's because how we're eating our way towards diabetes and don't know it. All right, so how can we turn things around? Let's go back to the app. Okay, so instead of these boiled eggs, let's do like Miss Thomas suggested and do boiled eggs. And I'm sorry, instead of boiled eggs, sorry, we're gonna do tofu, right? We're going to remove the boiled eggs. All right. Removing the boiled eggs. And in its place, let's do some extra firm tofu. Now, before you guys start, oh, tofu, you got to prepare it right. Okay. So when you're doing tofu, it holds seasoning very well. Okay. Just like any meat, and meat doesn't have flavor in it. Tofu will taste like you want it to taste. You want barbecue, put barbecue flavor. You want curry, put curry in there. Bragg's amino acids is what we usually use as a salt base. But just let it soak in some seasoning and it will taste however you want it to taste. Okay. It could actually, you can make it taste just like scrambled eggs. Okay. So, Deanna, if you want scrambled eggs, you're using tofu from now on. Okay. All right. You're using tofu. Okay. And answering your question too. So what's beautiful about this approach, Deanna, if you're worried about not feeling satisfied or feeling hungry, because people often tell me, well, I need fat to feel full. Starchy foods, actually are very filling. The problem is we don't eat enough of them. Fiber rich foods are very filling. We don't eat enough of them. So you could be very full. Fiber is more filling than fat. You're gonna live. I challenge you to sit down to a big bowl of oatmeal and be hungry 3, 4 hours later. Okay, fiber is very filling. So let's do some tofu. Extra firm. We're not gonna do the whole block because you could see, but a, a block of tofu still can add tip the scales towards being higher in fat. So let's say we're just doing a quarter block of tofu. All right, for breakfast. And what I want to do is start adding more carbs. I know it sounds crazy, but we're making our body tolerant to carbs. We could keep the avocado, but we're going to edit it here. Instead of doing a whole avocado, let's go back to the avocado and do a quarter, maybe a smaller amount. All right, so looking for the avocado, and we're just going to do maybe a quarter of it, just a small amount. Okay, still significant amount of fat, but just a lot less. We're not doing the cheese. We're gonna make it vegan. All right, so we're not gonna do the cheese. All right, we got tofu. We'll keep the bread. We do avocado. Maybe. Oh yeah, I think Miss Thomas said potatoes. Let's put the potatoes in there, right? Because we want to make sure. Um, yeah, Gerardo makes the best scrambled eggs, tofu eggs. Oh yeah, that's all. I love scrambled tofu eggs in the morning. So let's do sweet potato, because sweet potato is even better for as far as comparing sweet to white. Okay. Sweet potato, we're gonna let's see, you could choose any one of these options. Okay, let's say we baked it first. It doesn't really matter. All right, and I did um one large sweet potato. Let's say we're not eating the whole thing, just a third of it. You're sharing, you're being generous. Okay. Okay. What else? Anything else healthy that we could add to this breakfast? I think this is a pretty good breakfast. So we got 2 slices of Zico bread, some blueberries, tofu, avocado. Maybe we could add a little more fruit. Let's go ahead and add an orange, a good old orange. All right. So let's add some raw orange. Let's say we eat one large orange. All right, as to top it off. Okay, let's go on to lunch. All right, so for lunch, we're getting rid of the cheese. Okay, we're keeping it vegan. All right, and what with hummus is interesting. Hummus can be high in fat because of the oil added to it. So what I know it takes some time to make hummus, but you can make it very easily. Just simple ingredients, just chickpeas, vegetable broth or water, and some lemon. And then just a little salt to add to taste. You don't need much ingredients, or skill to make hummus. Okay, but it's great addition to foods. Um, and can be in itself is low in fat. It's just the oil that's added in the store-bought hummus we don't want. All right. So someone said baby spinach. All right, let's add some baby spinach to lunch. Okay. Maybe we could add a salad, so we could let's go ahead and let's do baby spinach. Okay. And a cup. What else can we add to our salads? Maybe do cucumbers. All right, so raw cucumbers. Well, no, I'm sure most people do it. I keep the peel myself. Like to slice it, keep the peel. So let's do I don't know, generous amount, 10 slices. Okay. Any other suggestions on what we could add? That's the romaine lettuce, is a common one we usually have in our salad. And so let's say we did the third cup of romaine lettuce. So we got a nice salad with hummus and tomato, maybe a couple slices of Ezekiel bread, because we just really like Ezekiel bread, I guess, right? Okay. And let's move on to dinner. All right. So, and by the end of this, guys, I want to give you guys an opportunity to see how where you could find some recipes. So we'll give you some recipes, okay, guys, so you guys can get started on eating healthier, making better choices. We got tomato, carrots. Some and so let's put that in our dinner. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of the meat because in Diabetes 180 we are all about the plant-based. Okay, we're gonna get rid of the olive oil because it's pure fat. All right. Let's keep the broccoli and brown rice and add some tomatoes. Tomatoes are a great choice. Tomatoes are extremely promoting. It's one of the healthiest foods that you can eat. All right, so we're just gonna have one a quarter inch slice. Okay, that's good. And carrots. Sure, let's add some carrots. Carrots cooked from fresh. Okay, 1 cup. All right. So we got broccoli, brown rice, tomato, carrots. Are we feeling pretty good with that meal before we look at the overall fat intake? So let's remind ourselves where we started from. The meal we just ate. Okay, let's say we ate that meal yesterday. All right. 47% fat. Whoa, like I gotta do better. All right, Lewis, we're gonna clean this up. We're gonna have scrambled tofu. We're gonna have a salad, a hefty salad with hummus, even though it's all store bought, but I didn't have time to make it. All right, then for dinner, I had broccoli and brown rice with tomato and carrots. Right. Um, let's see what it does to your fat intake. Right. 15%, right at the 15%. You're right at the mark, right? And you what's beautiful, you could add more foods. When you're eating whole food plant-based, your foods are mainly going to come from complex carbs. They're going to be rich in fiber, rich in complex carbs, right? We're not talking about the refined, highly processed carbs that we know are not good. But these foods are going to be health promoting in a lot of ways. Number one, they help fill you up, right? They slow fiber slows digestion, because the one thing I should add for dinner, let's add legumes. Let's add lentils. Okay, let's add lentils. Okay, and I you don't have to cook, so I'm gonna do a can from a can, and I don't know, maybe a third of the cup, a third cup, and your fat intake, your fat percentage dropped. So, you could add, if you're adding the right foods, guys, your fat percentage drops. The amount of fat you have drops. Okay. We have to be fair. And how would you know unless you're tracking it? So using food logs are great. And of course, when I see that you could, after a while, what foods are driving down fat and what foods are increasing fat, I'm making adjustments, right? Maybe I'm gonna have a little more beans in my meals. I'm gonna add more chickpeas, right? I'm gonna make sure that I have a hefty salad, right? And it becomes a fun challenge to make sure that you're eating to reverse diabetes. I guarantee eating this meal for this day, you are following every guideline when it comes to American Heart Association, American Diabetes Association, um, Cancer Society. I mean, there's so many benefits to foods that exist in this environment, this way of eating that promote health. Okay. Um, so I challenge you to use apps, to use app. So that's my challenge for everybody. Really to start using apps to track your fat intake. And remember, the ideal fat percentage really is to be no more than 15% of total calories if you're specifically designing meals to reverse diabetes. So hope that's clear to everybody. So one last thing I'd like to share with you guys is this. Um, so we do have recipes and a meal planning system. So these are all recipes. If I click on, one of the recipes, you can see what a picture of how it comes out, and ingredients and instructions, nutrition facts. Okay, all these recipes are going to be your ideal fat intake, right? Very low in fat, so that you could drive out the fat out of the lock. Okay, eating this way for long enough, you will be able to reverse your diabetes. Point and simple. So this is actually part of a program. Let me just go ahead and find it here, called Diabetes 180 Monthly Meal Plans. And it's basically done for you. You go every week and just look at what is on the menu for the week, planning in advance, of course, knowing what to shop. This is one of my favorite, killer vegan chili. You think you're eating meat with this one. You really think you're eating meat. It's so full of flavor. I mean, look at the spices, a long list of seasonings, you could really go crazy with. But this is really a done for you program. So all these recipes, and all these meals are low in fat. So, some days might be a little bit over, like the Wednesday fat percentage is 17, but Thursday's 12, Friday's 8. I'm looking at the macro. Fat for the week, it's 14.8 for that week if you eat all these meals. Done for you program. So if that's something that you think you can benefit from, something that you would like to enjoy, then I'm gonna go ahead and share a QR code and direct you to the description section of our wherever you're watching, YouTube, Facebook. Look at the description section for this live. It should have a link for the Diabetes 180 community. Okay. Very affordable membership, just $20 a month is what we charge. Not only are you getting those recipes and those meal plans, but you get to meet up and find a community, because that's what I feel like we need to, we're stronger together. So twice a month we get together as a community, talk about our struggles, talk about our wins, and encourage each other, and we also and educate each other on the benefits of eating this way for diabetes reversal. So, all right, someone said they weren't able to see what I was looking at. I'm assuming you were referring to the Meal Garden app. So let me go back. Sorry about that. I'm sharing my screen and it's not showing. So I think what I have to do is, yeah. So let me go run that back again so you can see what I was showing you guys. Thank you. Who said that? Jimmy, thank you for looking out for the crowd. Um, but so yeah, this is your meal plan for the week. Let's say you're starting from scratch. Meal plan one, first week. You want to see what's for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. It's all there for you. The fat intake is very low. So if you look at the far right here, I'm highlighting here. Fat intake for the week is 14.8%. You already know if you eat all these meals, you're going to be very low in fat. You're eating to reverse diabetes, guaranteed. Now, you could click on it, hit view, and you'll see the meal instructions on the bottom. So ingredients instructions are all right there. Very user friendly. I mean, you could also add meals to it. You could take away meals if you didn't like a meal. You could change it up. But looking at every meal right here, I mean, doesn't that look good, man? Mm. So there's the ingredients and instructions how to prepare it. All right. So this is I'll show you part of a larger program called the Diabetes 180 Meal Plans. And going through it quickly again, there's a tutorial video how to use it, and your meal plans all here, and I'm constantly adding more meal plans and recipes. So if you just want to grab, oops, let me go back. You just want to grab recipes, and make your own, design your own meal plan. You can do that with all these diabetes reversing recipes, all low in fat, and able to reverse your diabetes. Someone said the code doesn't work, and thank you for that message. If the QR code does not work, it's fine. I'm going to, let me just put in the chat the link. It should also again be in our description section, but I'm gonna put here in the chat a link that you can click onto. So let me do that now. All right. And if you, for some reason, you can't access this link, okay, if you can't access this link, then just message me. All right. So, but it's this link here is in, oh, my bad. I'm messing up. That is not the right link. That's your consultation link. Let's see. So we want the community link. Here it is. Okay. So that link works if you want to work with me as a coach, but this link is what you want to use for our community membership. Sorry, wrong one. So all right, Dan, it works. Awesome. So either link. So that link would be for community membership signing up. It's in. So check in the community, the chat section there, and click on that link and get your rest. Get join the community. Get all the benefits of a community that is banding together to reverse their diabetes. If you know anybody who's struggling with diabetes, and share this link with them. Let's do this together. Let's take down the pharmaceutical industry. All right. Okay. Antoinette says, will this eating plan improve cholesterol numbers? You betcha. Lower triglycerides, lower LDL. You betcha. That's why I love this. Is the only diet that can reverse heart disease. Okay. The only diet that has been proven to have benefits in preventing cancer and fighting certain cancers. Okay. Yeah, it's just the way to go to me because not only are you able to eat more carbs, right? Because you're becoming tolerant to carbs as the disease regresses, right? But you're also able to prevent and even reverse many other chronic diseases, right? I heard a study, Dr. Walter Kempner, in his rice fruit diet actually was reversing blindness. Okay. And it's crazy that we don't talk about the power of this diet. Of course, that was an extreme diet. I wouldn't recommend someone just eating rice and fruit only, but he was just doing it experimentally to revert to help people control blood pressure in a day and age where there was no blood pressure medicine. So, extreme measures were required. And he accidentally was reversing blindness, because people with blindness to the point, diabetic retinopathy to the point where they couldn't read bold letters were able to read because the arteries, the blood supply to their eyes just cleared up on a low fat environment, low fat diet. So yeah, honey, Deanna, I'm okay with honey in moderation because again, what we're doing is we're making it easier for insulin to work, right? So when you're insulin resistant, honey may be a problem. It's getting stuck, right? You remove the gum from the lock in a low fat environment. Now you can use a little honey on your oatmeal, and have normal blood sugar levels, of course. But I would say in the beginning, as you're transitioning, maybe don't, right? Because you're starting out in an insulin resistant state, so you want to make sure you're only sticking with complex carbs and maybe lay off honey for a little bit while you're improving your insulin resistance. So I hope that makes sense. But and it's also good because then in long term, what you want to start enjoying foods in their natural state, natural taste, right? Without needing to add flavor. And that's possible if you go long enough eating natural foods as grown, as found in nature, your taste buds change. Right. You can pick up the flavors and textures and food that at one time before may have needed flavor enhancement. Okay. No, we don't offer in-person appointments, Antoinette. We only do online, so I can meet with you virtually. All our coaching sessions are done virtually, and it's just as good as being in person. Really, look at us. We're talking right here from across the country, wherever you are, right? So that's how we do our coaching sessions. All right. So that's all the time we have. We definitely went over time, 42 minutes. That's all right though. We'll have to do this again. This was fun for sure. So, beloved, as always, I pray above all things that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. We'll see you next week on